But if rightly so, you say, okay, well, make your eating habits adhere to a more moral standard. It's something I'll admit I'm a hypocrite on, and it's something that I've thought about a fair bit. So actually, thank you for urging me to consider my hypocrisy and continuing to move in that direction, because I'm thinking about it seriously.
How can you admit that you're a hypocrite and then continue to, how can you
That's what a hypocrite is. I just said I am.
Hey, what is up, guys? So a clip of Ben Shapiro was uploaded to Twitter around 2 years ago, where he straight up just fully admitted that when it comes to veganism, he is a moral hypocrite. And this clip didn't get like a huge amount of views. I think it was around like 20,000, and I couldn't find the video anywhere on YouTube as well. And I think for what the video is, it deserves much more views. So for that reason, I'm just going to be uploading it here. After showing the clip, I'm going to be giving some of my general thoughts and also just what to do when you're in a situation where you're dealing with a person like Ben, who has logically made the connection as to why they should go vegan, but just are not going vegan. As much as I hate to admit it, and I've said this before on my channel, before I was vegan, I made the connection and I knew what I was doing was completely immoral, but I still continued to participate in it for a period of time. And this seems to be the exact situation that Ben Shapiro is in. I've also been getting a lot of people thinking that I'm like a right-leaning person because I've been criticizing a lot of left-leaning anti-vegan stuff. So I figured this would be a well-timed video as well to see that I also criticize right-wing people. A big shout out to Mackin Murphy, who is the uploader of the video, as well as the person who pushed Ben Shapiro to admitting he is a moral hypocrite when it comes to veganism. Let's get into it.
Over the past few years, I've heard you repeatedly predict that in 100 years, all of us are going to be looked back upon as barbarians, and I'm quoting you, barbarians, for eating animals, for eating meat.
I said it's a possibility, yeah.
You've predicted it on 3 separate occasions.
I said probably, and I think that's probably true, yeah.
Okay, so
sure.
You stand by that statement. Okay, great. And yet you've never suggested that you would take any action on this topic. You've never suggested that you are going to go vegan, or even vegetarian. I know. And so my question for you is this. How can you make a career off of preaching personal responsibility while failing to take responsibility for your words on this topic?
So one of the contingencies that would make it an absolute brutality in 100 years is that there's actual sources of animal-like protein that are produced without the use of animals. And that is progressing pretty quickly, right? I mean, you're actually seeing animal protein being produced without the killing of animals. I think that's going to make things a lot easier for people. As far as the vegetarian-vegan question, it's something that I've actually seriously considered. I haven't talked about it publicly a lot, but it's something that I've actually pretty seriously considered because, I mean, frankly, I do think that there are I think that on the list of moral evils in American society, I think that this comes in a far, far cry behind things like abortion, for example, like the killing of human beings in the womb. But if you're going to talk about, but if rightly so, you say, okay, well, make your eating habits adhere to a more moral standard. It's something I'll admit I'm a hypocrite on, and it's something that I've thought about a fair bit. So actually, thank you for urging me to consider my hypocrisy and continuing to move in that direction, because I'm thinking about it seriously.
How can you admit that you're a hypocrite and then continue to, how can you
That's what a hypocrite is. I just said I am.
But you're preaching personal responsibility. So what if I said that I was a hypocrite on the pro-life issue? That you say, what if I say, well, I think abortion is wrong, but I'm going to get an abortion. Obviously, I can't.
I'd be saying at least what I would say is you're upholding the right moral standard in your talk, and I wish you would do so in your personal life, and you are free to say the same thing to me about my eating habits.
Okay, fair enough.
Just honestly so satisfying to watch. I'm not even a really big fan of Ben Shapiro, but it is cool to see someone who has such a large platform of people that, you know, pride themselves on being so based on facts and logic, just straight up say like, yeah, I'm a moral hypocrite for this, and not doing any sort of like mental gymnastics. So before I go into the whole how to convince a person to go vegan who is logically, you know, making the connection but still isn't going vegan, I do want to criticize one of the things that Ben Shapiro said in his response to Mackin Murphy, where he said that one of the contingencies that would need to occur to make meat eating an absolute brutality in 100 years is the availability of animal-like protein without the use of animals.
So one of the contingencies that would make it an absolute brutality in 100 years is that there's actual sources of animal-like protein that are produced without the use of animals.
Now, when Ben Shapiro says that one of the contingencies that would need to be existing within 100 years to make meat eating be viewed as brutal is the availability of animal-like protein without the use of animals. I really don't understand what he means. I mean, like, imagine if we didn't even have lab-grown meat in 100 years brought to scale. I think it's pretty obvious that it's still brutal as what we do to animals. Just imagine if in 100 years from now, or just in general, there was absolutely no such thing as lab-grown meat. I'm pretty sure that Ben Shapiro would still agree that paying for a holocaust of animals when you're in the presence of just plant-based alternatives that can help you thrive is still considered brutal or a brutality. It really is as simple as there's potentially two situations. One where you have plant-based alternatives and then animal products where you support animals being exploited and murdered. And then you have a situation where there's animal products, plant-based alternatives, and then lab-grown animal products. I believe that in both situations, I mean, what animals are going to be going through is definitely a brutality. Now, aside from all that, I want to talk now about what to do in a situation where a person just logically has made the connection, but still aren't going vegan. So in my situation, when my brother was trying to get me to go vegan, I really had no arguments against anything he was saying. I was like, yeah, I'm just a moral hypocrite. Like, I can't justify my actions, blah, blah, blah. And in hindsight, when I look back at what it was that wasn't present within my mind that would have compelled me to go vegan sooner, it's really just the emotional connection. Now, as obvious as that sounds, I think it is something that a lot of vegan activists should try to understand. I mean, when a person sits here and says to you, like, yeah, man, you know, it's honestly just screwed, it's whatever, you know, what I'm doing is so messed up. I've seen a lot of vegans just respond with saying like, wow, you piece of shit, so you know it's wrong, but whatever, you know, like, I can't believe you're not going vegan when you know it's wrong. I think at this point, the more productive thing to do is expose these people to footage, get them emotionally compelled to go vegan. This is what happened to me, and yes, I know this is my little anecdote, but I would say that intuitively it makes sense to think that if a person has logically made the connection as to why they should go vegan, the thing they should be now exposed to is things that would induce the emotional connection, which is going to be the slaughter footage and all of the horrific things that would induce an emotional response within the person. There really isn't any point in trying to make any more logical arguments to them because clearly they understand. Also, what you can do is show them all of the vegan alternatives that would show them how really just easy it is. I think it's fairly obvious that people like Ben Shapiro and non-vegans who logically have made the connection but aren't going vegan really just have a strong emotional attachment to food.
Again, I think that if we're needlessly killing animals, then you know, I would consider moving away from that. Although I really miss hamburgers, to be honest with you.
So I think it's also important to just show them how absolutely easy it is and how many plant-based alternatives there are. And also just empathize with them and be like, you know, listen, I get it. When I wasn't vegan and I was, you know, faced with these arguments, going vegan to me seemed like such a big change to make. So that made me hesitate for a long period of time. But you'll see, especially in 2021, that being a vegan in the Western world and you know, developed countries is very easy. And after a certain point, it really is just like second nature. Like, I personally don't even think about it. And I'm sure that many of you as well who have been vegan for multiple years also barely think about it. So yeah, guys, I mean, that is the end of the video. Thank you, Ben Shapiro, for at least being intellectually honest and admitting you're a hypocrite. I mean, there are so many, you know, people that a lot of other people view as intellectual scholars that are just so smart, but when it comes to veganism, they're incredibly stupid or resort to really weird justifications that they would never deploy in any other situation. This kind of relates back to a video I did titled Why Veganism Makes Smart People Stupid. I'll leave that in the description below if you want to see that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Dude, even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who's your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude, even vegans don't get your weird, stupid